Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the relatively uncommon bug rock-type Pokemon Dwebble, the Rock Inn Pokémon, and its uncommon evolution Crustle, the Stone Home Pokémon. While they might be overlooked by some for their seemingly bland forms and limited offensive variety, the members of the Dwebble family are tempered beasts that can definitely take a physical beating and give a decent one out in turn. As part of the infra-order Brachyura, Dwebble are small creatures related to hermit crabs with an orange body and 4 jointed limbs that they use for locomotion, their back legs serving as their prime driving force, and their front appendages ending in pointed pincers that serve as their primary means of delivering attacks in close quarters. They have a pair of black, stalked eyes that give them access to decent vision, a toothless mouth, and their back end is adorned with a large, hooked tail. This end is rarely ever seen, however, as the back half of these creatures is almost always hidden within a self-crafted shell made of stone, which serves as their primary means of defense. Their evolved form, Crustle, have a darker orange body that is almost completely flat, with 6 small jointed legs that are used for mobility and a pair of large pincers on the front that are used as their primary attacking appendages. Every one of their limbs is coated in an extra thick layer of exoskeletal material at the tips, differentiated by its dark brown coloring that helps to support the legs and keep them from easily cracking when these creatures are carrying a heavy load. Their stalked eyes have slightly shorter stalks and have a yellow color to them with a black pupil, and their toothless mouths stay relatively unchanged in evolution. They perpetually carry a massive slab of rock on their backs that they handcraft, and it acts as their primary means of defense against attackers in place of the shells that Dwebble possess. The members of the Dwebble family are fairly simple crustaceans that primarily feed on small insects and shellfish and take after hermit crabs in more than just a genetic relation, as their bodies are almost always either encased in or covered by a large piece of rock material as a form of defense. The reason for this is that their exoskeletons are fairly soft compared to other crustaceans, and their slow movement speeds means that they cannot always readily defend their vulnerable bodies on their own without this rock material protecting them. While the manner in which they craft their artificial shells differs between Dwebble and Crustle, they are still alike in that they are psychologically dependent upon the rock, though they handle the loss of their shell very differently. While Dwebble will become very agitated and panicked if they lose their current shell, and remain as such until they can get a new one, Crustle become unsure of themselves and are overall weaker and less likely to defend themselves until they can create a new shell, which stands in contrast to their normally aggressive personalities. While these creatures can often be found on beaches, they are also known to live in deserts, primarily because they have evolved beyond their aquatic roots and have lost almost all of their aquatic attributes over time, reducing them to bug types with a rock-type secondary type assignment as a result of their rocky shells. Their move variety is also fairly limited as a result, as they mainly only gain access to bug and rock-type attacks naturally, but they can still put up a decent fight with what offenses they do have. Plus, they and Rhyperior are the only Pokemon able to naturally learn the devastating Rock Wrecker attack. Not surprisingly, the presence of their shells allow these creatures to possess the sturdy and shell armor abilities as base abilities, as well as the weak armor ability as a hidden ability if the rock they have chosen is unusually brittle. As far as their stats are concerned, in looking at Crustle, it can be seen that they primarily rely on their physical attributes to assist them in battle, as while most of their stats are below average for their types, their base HP stat is above average for a fully evolved bug-type Pokemon, and their base attack and defense stats are above average for a fully evolved bug and rock-type Pokemon. They may not be among the most conventional of rock-type Pokemon, but these sturdy crustaceans can still put up quite a fight in close quarters and take a decent beating in turn. Dwebble primarily make their rock shells out of small boulders through a combination of diligence and natural biology, using their pincers to whittle away at the sides until it is a suitable size and shape for them, before then spitting a corrosive acid from their mouths that quickly eats through the rock material and hollows out a space inside of it where Dwebble can then place their bodies. In order to keep a hold of their shell, these creatures spit this acid in layers and allow it to create a series of steps on the inside, on which these crabs can then latch the hooked end of their tail on to keep a hold of the shell at all times. While the potency of this acid could make it a powerful weapon in battle, the energy needed to create the solution is very high for these beasts, so they reserve using it for making homes and that purpose alone. Despite their small size, these creatures are able to defend themselves fairly well at a young age, starting with the Fury Cutter attack straight from birth and quickly gaining access to moves like Rock Blast to give them a good head start over other young bug and rock type Pokemon, so they can definitely make good use of their shells and moves with little trouble. Moreover, their generally placid nature makes them great pets for young children, and they are usually quite easy to take care of, though caution must be paid to them as they grow older, as while they might be quite friendly and fun to play with initially, their behavior shifts dramatically when they evolve, and they can quickly become a hassle in that state if not properly trained, especially if they have access to Rock Wrecker and choose to put a hole in one's house out of anger or agitation. When Dwebble evolve into Crustle, their bodies change dramatically in shape, becoming incredibly flat and low to the ground, which is designed as such on purpose. Because of their large size, these creatures cannot simply create a home out of a pre-existing piece of rock material, so instead, they take pieces of rock material they find and carve them into large sheets, which they then use their acid to partially dissolve and glue together as the solution hardens, creating a layered rock shell that then sits atop their backs. This powerful shield makes it very difficult for predatory bird Pokemon to get at the creatures, as they must get very low to the ground to even have a good chance at attacking their main body, and that is usually a bad idea, as it puts them in direct range of their large front pincers. The pincers and legs of Crustle are coated in an excessive amount of exoskeletal material at the ends in order to help increase their durability at the tips, where the most pressure is being placed on them by the stone shell that they carry around. And while it does dull their claws somewhat and make them unable to normally use the Fury Cutter attack learned by Dwebble at birth, this is a small sacrifice for the added offensive power it grants them with their physical attacks, as well as the added ability to carry their load over the span of days without having to seriously rest, even over arid land. Unfortunately for trainers, unlike Dwebble, Crustle are highly aggressive and territorial, and will attack anything that they perceive to be a threat to their territory, including other Crustle. As such, territorial disputes within Crustle colonies are quite common, and these fights can be so brutal that they will often only end when one of the contenders has had its shell broken, signifying their loss and shaming them out of their territory as a way of eliminating weaker members from the colony. This behavior translates over to the way that they interact with other Pokemon, as they will gladly attack opponents in battle with little mercy, going all out with their offenses and striking with powerful physical attacks both up close and from afar, overall making them a tough nut to crack without special offenses on one side. Though they might be fairly simplistic in their biology and attributes, the members of the Dwebble family are hardy crustaceans that can take a lot of physical punishment and deliver it back in kind. It might take a bit of time to get used to their aggressive tendencies as they grow up and evolve, but as long as you take good care of them, you shouldn't have much trouble making the most of these beasts' hard-shelled antics. Of course, if you're looking for some fun and want to impress your friends, take a ride on one of these critters when they are fully evolved and see the world from a comfortable, elevated platform. Just make sure that your Crustle trusts you before doing so, because if you try this with one that is unfamiliar with or untrusting of you, it will gladly buck you off and introduce you to its powerful pincers for rudely trying to use it as a transport without its permission. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
Yeah, no.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.